welcome to a Southend preview. And as you can see by the backdrop, what's coming tomorrow? Well, of course, it's non-league day. Of course, the biggest day for me in non-league in the whole of the season. And I'm hoping that everybody's going to get out there, tell all your mates and that normally go to Premier League games, etc., to get themselves down to a non-league game tomorrow. It is going to be a massive, massive day. And I'm so privileged to say the founder of Non-League Day, James Doe, is going to join us for an interview. You'll get to see that very, very shortly. But of course, as we normally say, let's get on and have a quick look at the fixtures then for tomorrow, where you can go for Non-League Day. Let's have a look then. Premier Central first. It is AFC Rushden and Diamonds. They will play Leiston. Alberchurch, they're going to play Bedford Town. Barwell, they're going to play Hensford Town. Bashford United, they're going to play, Baseford United, I'll get told off. Baseford United versus Redditch United. Bromsgrove Sporting, they're playing Micklehove. Colville Town on an incredible run at the moment. They're going to take on Kings Langley. Hitchin Town, they're going to take on Stratford Town. Needham Market, they're going to take on Nuneaton Borough. Royston Town, they take on league leaders Tamworth. Rushall Olympic, they take on St Ives Town. And Stourbridge, they take on Ilkeston. And then, of course, then in the South Division, fixtures, I'm getting me tongue-tied today. Dorchester Town, they take on Merthyr Town. Hanwell Town take on Swindon Supermarine. Harrow Borough take on Gosport Borough. Hendon, they take on Hartley Whitney. Metropolitan Police take on Chesham United, and what a game that is going to be. And Gavin McPherson joins us on Monday for the D&K Repost non-league show as well, so that'll be interesting. Northleigh, they take on league leaders Weston-super-Mare. Have had a bit of a rocky couple of weeks, so who knows for Northleigh there. They're pushing, of course, for getting out of those relegation zone. Hall Town, they take on Hayes and Yedding. Truro City, they take on Salisbury. Winchester City take on Beaconsfield Town, and Yate Town take on Bracknell Town. In the Central Division this weekend. And, of course, it could be a big day for one of those sides in there, of course. But it's AFC Dunstable against FC Romania. Aylesbury United, they take on Walthamstow. Barton Rovers take on Waltham Abbey. Biggleswade take on Didcot Town in a massive game there. And we've also got the game that is going to be another interesting game. Cirencester Town, they take on Ware. And this is the one that I think there could be quite a big crowd out tomorrow. Hertford Town versus Berkhamsted. 1 point in that game, or any type of drop point from Biggleswade in their home game against Didcot, gives the title to Berkhamsted and Chris Devane's men. Highworth Town, they take on Kempston Rovers. Kidlington, they take on Biggleswade Town. And Tame United, they take on Welling Garden City. In the South Division, there is a Friday night game. It is Westbury United, and they take on Frome Town. And then it is AFC Totton against Larkhall Athletic. Bishops Cleeve, they take on Exmouth Town. Bristol Manor Farm, they take on Leamington Town. Cinderford Town, they take on Hamworthy United. Evesham United take on Bashley. Taunton Rovers take on Wimborne Town. Sholing, the league leaders, they take on Bidford. Tavistock, they take on Slimbridge. Willand Rovers, they take on Merscombe Town. So some great games there this weekend. There's championships on the line, and there's playoff places on the line, relegation places on the line. Make sure you get out there to a non-league game tomorrow. And, of course, make sure, as I said at the beginning of the show, get in touch with all your friends that might be at Premier League games and championship games, League One, League Two games, and get them down to your local ground and support your local side. I'm going to leave you now with a fantastic interview with James Doe, the founder of Non-League Day. Well, welcome to the Southend preview. A little bit different this week, of course, because it's a massive weekend this weekend, and a weekend I think that every non-league fan looks forward to every single year, and it's the first thing I look for, I must admit, when the fixtures get released, when these are going to be Non-League Day. And, of course, this weekend it is non-league Day, and, of course, joining us is the founder, Mr. James Doe. And James, it's a pleasure to have you with us. And I mean, tell us how excited you get at this time of year, when knowing that tomorrow is the big day.
Okay, it's do you know what? I get more nervous than I think excited, because you sort of get to the last week or two of the campaign and you don't think anything's going to happen. And then it just starts going absolutely crazy. I mean, a little bit earlier every year. I mean, I think the social media feeds that we run have been absolutely on fire since Monday, and which is unprecedented because there's so much going on around clubs all around the country. And as you might have seen, we've got some international interest this year with Athletic Bilbao joining the cause.
Which is fantastic for you. I mean, before we go in like to tomorrow, how did it all come about in the first place? How did it all start?
Okay, what non-league day itself?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I was a follower of Harrow Borough from the late 80s. I actually got an alert the other day saying I saw my first game 35 years ago. So, and
Was
it's
Steve Baker in charge then?
yeah, it might have well been. Yeah. um, and yeah, I got really into it. You know, I was new to the neighborhood and met some local kids. We used to go along. It was cheap. You know, we could go and watch the reserves when the first team were playing away. It was brilliant. And then we got really into it and started going to the away games as well. Used to actually end up on the team coach going to the away games. I don't know if that's still an option for fans these days, but that was the way it used to be. And yeah, just got totally hooked for about 5 years. And then I went away to university and kind of lost a bit of touch with the game. You know, sort of finances weren't as great as they could be, and I didn't see much live football for a few years. And then I started watching QPR, who were my first love when I was a really small kid. You know, I'd had a bit of money and I could, go and see, professional football again. And yeah, I went and watched them one year on a pre-season tour in Devon. They were playing Tavistock, and it was an absolutely huge occasion for the local club. As we drove into town, there were sort of posters for it all over the place, on roundabouts, on the side of buses even, saying, "Come and watch us by QPR." And the ground was absolutely packed. QPR played their entire first 11 and absolutely thrashed them. But it didn't care, it didn't matter. The place was packed, and it was obvious that the money raised from that match would, probably set them up for the season, or, keep them going very nicely.
Mm.
And we were all treated so well, and it kind of rekindled those memories I had of going to watch Harrow home and away. And I just thought, oh, yeah, I've got to go and watch Harrow again. It's been a while. So I went and watched them a week or two later. Again, I think it was a pre-season game. And I was very struck by the fact that they were having to run a collection to raise funds for new floodlight bulbs, which I thought for a club of their stature would have been a fairly routine cost. And I sort of had a look around, and there's a lot of other teams in a similar position, because it wasn't that long after the financial crash of 2008. And I think a lot of places were struggling a bit. I just suddenly thought, it wouldn't be great. We had all those fans pile into the game down in Tavistock a few weeks ago. I suddenly saw there was an international break, and it sort of had the eureka moment that there was like, all these big clubs are going to be without a game. All these fans are going to be without a game. So why not try and divert them into going to watch some non-league football instead? Because there'll be a full program of matches. And I think that particular weekend was the first time England weren't playing on the Saturday either. They were playing on the Friday night. So the way was pretty much completely open. So I sort of set up this event on Facebook, which for me was also quite a new thing at the time, and just sent it to a few friends, probably just to encourage them to go and watch Harrow or whoever were playing near them, just to see what would happen. And it turned out that a few of them were more into non-league football than I realised. They sort of forwarded it to their friends, and it became viral quite quickly. And within 6 weeks, I had a national event on my hands.
So, I mean, with it though, I mean, how did did you go to the FA with that, or did they contact you, or what actually physically happened? I mean, and when you actually decide non-league day at the beginning, I'm assuming you must choose at the end of the year when you look at when the national breaks are. Because I know before it used to be sort of September, October time, if I'm right in saying that's that sort of time, and now it seems to be later on in the season. So, do you decide the date it's going to be, and then get authorization from them, or?
No, we don't get any authorization. In fact, our relationship with the FA is actually pretty minimal, disappointingly so. They don't really engage with us that much at all. But yeah, so as for selecting the date, we just look ahead, find out when the international breaks are, and try and find the one that's got the least going on it. So, try and avoid the one where England are playing on the Saturday, if at all possible. We used to always do it in sort of September, October, but we found there was usually always a clash with an FA competition, be it the Cup, Trophy, or Vase. And a lot of teams don't like that because they can't offer any real discounts or anything like that because they have to get the away team's permission when it comes to pricing. So COVID actually gave us a break from that and gave us a chance to sort of reassess and look at when we were going to host it. And so we thought, we'll give it a go in the spring, because then in March there aren't really any, clashes with FA competitions. And so we thought we'd give it a try then. A lot of people had asked us to try it in the spring, and COVID actually gave us that opportunity to reset and have a go. So that's how we do it. And we make our announcement and then see what happens. So the FA, as I say, they don't really do that much with us. And in fact, this year, when we announced it was going to be in March, a few weeks later, they decided to schedule Women's Football Weekend directly against it, which was a little bit disappointing because in past years, we've always sort of had an agreement that we'd sort of divvy up the international breaks and keep it separate. But, the demographic is quite different for those who watch women's football and those who go to non-league. So hopefully it won't be too much of a clash. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the women's game as well, and we'll be going to a match on Sunday too. So hopefully we'll both prosper over this weekend.
Does that not? I know you probably won't may not answer this. You may answer it. Does it not just show you that it's almost I wouldn't say contempt, but it's just like, oh well, they're just sort of like a Sunday morning football. We're not going to worry about them too much. Do you know what I mean? And then with likes of yourselves, and then of course with the likes of all the coverage that I know it's National League, but in the likes of Wrexham are getting as well. All of a sudden, non-league's really being put in the forefront of everybody's consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, we say the FA we don't have a great working relationship with, but the Premier League we actually do. I mean, weirdly, most people would think it would be the other way around, but it isn't. They are really, do as much as I think they can to help us. I mean, this weekend they're sending the Premier League trophy out to 2 games. They're sending one to Peacehaven and Telscombe tonight, and Coventry Sphinx tomorrow. And there's, a lot of razzmatazz that goes with that. And hopefully the crowds will be huge at those games. They, do loads of features about players who've made their way up the leagues and now play in the Premier League. And they get all their clubs to do lots of, program articles, social media posts, etc. And, that has really helped drive it up. We've got all the stuff with Wrexham, people, love them or hate them, they are generating eyeballs on the game, and that at this level, and that can only be a good thing. I mean, I've seen numerous articles in recent weeks sort of saying the non-league attendances over the last 10 years or whatever are going up. Now, there's loads of reasons for that. But, at the moment, the cost of living is a huge one, I should imagine. I mean, I haven't been to a professional game myself all season. But, because I can't really justify the cost at the moment.
I mean, with the day itself, I mean, what is this weekend coming up? I mean, have you heard of some crazy ones for this weekend? That some clubs go all out there. Some clubs just sort of do half price entry or this sort of stuff, and so they're taking part in the day. But I mean, have you heard of any crazy ones this year? I know we've heard of a few through the years through likes of Talk Sport and people like that have said about some crazies. But one, what have you heard about this weekend? And 2, what has been the craziest one you've ever heard of since you started doing it?
Well, I think the most eye-catching one, which I always mention, was the free punnet of mushrooms if you came to a game. That was at Bungay Town. Yeah. That was a really eye-catching one. I think their sponsor or someone on the committee had a mushroom farm, and he was just giving them away on the day. And the previous year, they were paying people to come. If you turned up, you get 5p if you came in. And they play way down the pyramid in like the step 8 or something like that, and they were getting much bigger crowds than they normally would. I liked one year, I think it was Welton Rovers. They had sort of very traditional sort of English activities and things like hamster racing in the clubhouse. You could come and enjoy. I don't think there's anything really wacky this year. I think there's been some quite creative things, like I think Rains Park Vale, I've just seen this morning, their sponsors, Banquet Records, who are very cool, very, very cool sponsor to have. If you go down to their very fantastic record shop, you can just get a free ticket over the counter for the game, things like that, where sponsors are actually being a bit more creative in the way they're doing things. I think there's a lot more sort of free food and drink offers here. Come along for a pie and a pie for people going to the Ukraine-England game on Sunday. I think that's all. It should be a good one. But you know, I saw when I went to Harrow last year, it coincided with the England-Switzerland game, and they had some Swiss fans turn up at Harrow before going on to Wembley, which was really good. So yeah, I mean, there's so many things. I mean, I write a blog called The London Football Guide, and I've just tried to summarize everything that's going on in London, and people and clubs are dropping offers even now today at the last minute. They're jumping on board, so it's quite hard to keep up with everything that's going on because there is just so much across the country.
And of course, you do your own sort of merchandise as well for the day as well. I remember a few years back, and it might even be a few more years back from there. But I always remember, and I've still got it upstairs. I had a look to see if I could find it before we came on today. It was a red hoodie with I think
right.
we were saying like support non-league football or something like that on the front of the shirt. So I've got one of those upstairs. But I mean, what would be your ultimate sort of dream for the day itself and for the actual campaign? I mean, if someone said to you today, this is the one thing you could pick, what would it be?
Okay, so I mean, I think it's very simple in that I just want to get it firmly embedded in the sporting calendar. There's something that people instantly know what it is and when it is, but you know, like olden days. I mean, there's still people within non-league who don't know what non-league day is. So I've got a lot of work to do, and also just to spread it across Europe even further than it already has done and get it really cemented there, because there is an appetite and we're getting contacts about it all the time. I mean, there was a plan pre-COVID. We actually had a meeting in Paris to set up a European day of sort of semi-pro amateur football, and for some countries they could have been benefiting from EU funding. It was getting that serious. So those would be my two massive goals for the day, long term.
And of course, you've got your own little team there with Francis and with Ian, and of course as well, you brought somebody new on this year as well.
Yeah, we've got Elsa from Hamwell Town, a good Southern League club. I mean, she's an absolute force at that club. What she's done there over the last few years, for someone so young, she's doing an amazing job. And so we brought her on board, because of what she has achieved. And she's helping us on the social media side. So it's been really, really good.
Probably the off that sort of thing of it, but probably the best grass pitch in the Southern League.
yeah, indeed.
I mean, it'd be wrong of me to ask you, away from sort of tomorrow, but I'd love to know what your thoughts were. And we spoke about it off air before we came on, but your manager has decided to step away. I think it was announced yesterday, of course, in Steve Baker. I mean, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, Steve's done a fantastic job over the last few years. I mean, he's given us 2 runs to the FA Cup first round, against Northampton and Portsmouth, and a great run in the FA Trophy this season. We were just a kick away from beating Halifax, who are now in the semi-finals. So he's achieved some amazing stuff with what he's had available to him, because the crowds aren't huge, the budget isn't massive, and to keep us ticking over for as long as he has done is a great achievement. And there's still so much to play for this season. We've got Middlesex Cup final, and we're still fighting to stay in the division. So if you can achieve both a win in that and keep us up, what a great way for him to go out. But of those managers that are out there, I mean, the first one that came into my mind was Gary McCann, because he's done a great job at Hendon, a similar sized club, for so many years, and was doing a good job in tough circumstances at Hampton Richmond until fairly recently. So I'd be very happy to see him come along.
Well, I was disappointed to see Steve and yourselves get to the Middlesex Cup final, because you beat my side in the semi-final. So
I know, I didn't see that coming. I did not see that coming.
Oh dear, it was one of those. Yeah, But listen, mate, I really appreciate it, and I really do. Non-league day is the one fixture, you know, as an Arsenal fan, you always look to see when, you know, you're playing the likes of Tottenham and that. But when with non-league, the first thing I always look for, very passionately, in all fairness, is to find out when your non-league day is. So I wish you all the very, very best with it tomorrow, and all the clubs get out there and make sure we're supporting it as much as we possibly can, because it's probably the biggest day in non-league for the whole season, in my opinion. Forget the trophy final and the Vars final. Non-league day is the most important day of the whole football calendar for me. So we wish yourself, James, and everybody that's taking part, and the rest of your team, all the very, very best for tomorrow. And let's hope it's for an incredibly successful day. And of course, also, hopefully, it's going to be just like it is out the window from me today, nice and sunny, so that a few more people come through the gate as well. But James, a massive thank you for joining us on the Southend preview today. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And from everybody else, we'll see you soon. Well, a massive thank you for James just to joining us today. And we do wish him and his team all the best for non-league day tomorrow. Fantastic news about non-league day spreading out to Spain as well. What fantastic news that is for the federation of course, non-league day, and getting it out there across and into Europe as well. A massive thank you for everybody for watching. Best of luck to everybody at the weekend, and hopefully you get all the points that you want, and let's hope you get double the gates this weekend for non-league day. But a massive thank you from me, and also of course the Goal Show that will be back on Wednesday night 8 o'clock. Please share, watch and subscribe. Please get your clubs out there to actually retweet it and promote the show as well. It's all out there for you. As my hashtag says, help me help you. But from me, good night.